afternoon, everybody. How's everyone doing today? Good day so far? Yes? Great. Welcome to Boston. Happy to introduce myself. My name is David Poolman. I'm the Executive Director and Lead Commissioner for the College Squash Association. Really happy today to be here with all of you. I think we have a streaming audience too, so we're excited about that. We're going to have a presentation about college squash and college squash recruiting for about 20 to 25 minutes, and then we'll have a question and answer session at the end. So if you have questions along the way, please try and hold them off until the end. This session is being streamed and recorded, so feel free to take as many notes as you feel you need to, but we'll also have this available at the end. We also have an information sheet, a tip sheet over here on the side. Please feel free to grab one on the way out. We have some limited copies, so if we could keep it to one per family, that would be great. Can I see a show of hands? Who's here from the United States? Good number. And who's here from outside the United States? Great, excellent mix. So I'll try and make sure I'm clear about some of the terminology and the age groups that we're talking about. So here's our agenda for today. We're going to do a little intro. We'll talk about the CSA, the College Squash Association, who we are and what we do. And then we'll get into the college recruiting process. I'm talking about squash in particular, but this is really true across the board. And towards the end, we'll talk a little bit about what I've learned that coaches are looking for as part of the recruiting process. And then we'll open it up for questions at the end. So just to start with, my name is David Poolman, like I said. I've been in this role since August of 2018. And I'm the first full-time employee that the College Squash Association has ever had. I'll talk a little bit about what happened, the transition that occurred a couple years ago. But I'm really excited to be in this role. It's a great time for college squash. And we're looking to really improve some standards and make ourselves really well known. I myself played in the College Squash Association. I was a Haverford College student athlete, and I've been in college athletics administration for about 12 years now. Prior to joining the CSA, I was at Columbia in the athletics department, and I oversaw the squash programs there. So, what is the CSA? The CSA is, formerly we're known as the Intercollegiate Squash Association, or more informally, the College Squash Association. We're the official governing body for intercollegiate squash, both varsity and club in the United States. And the reason we're here and we're in place is because squash, as many of you may know, is not an NCAA-sanctioned sport. All right? The NCAA is the governing body for a vast majority of college sports in the United States. Over 1,000 schools, between 3 divisions. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Squash is not one of the sports that the NCAA recognizes. And so we, the College Squash Association, fill that role. We fill the same role that the NCAA does, but just on a much smaller scale. Our mission is kind of threefold. We focus on sportsmanship and fair play. We focus on academic excellence. And we're looking to expand opportunities to play college squash in the United States. Currently, we have 35 men's varsity teams, 32 women's varsity teams, and on a yearly basis, the number of club teams fluctuates, but it's about 45 on any given year. The difference between the two, varsity teams are recognized by the institutions who are members of the College Squash Association. So they put operational dollars into the programs to help support them through coaching, through travel, through admissions help, lots of different areas. And they're recognized as varsity sports by those schools. The club teams are much more informal. They're often run by the students themselves. They don't have as many rules and regulations that are involved. There's a little more flexibility. And the schools recognize them as club teams in most cases, but not as varsity teams. So those athletic departments or those institutions are not putting as much funding into those teams. So in total, we have on any given year, about 110 teams under our umbrella. Prior to 2017, we actually had 2 CSAs. We had a men's and a women's version, and it was operated primarily by the coaches. But in 2017, those groups got together, along with US Squash, and decided to dissolve those 2 separate organizations and make one single intercollegiate squash association. That group is now overseen by an independent board of directors. We have 5 independent directors and 4 coaches on our board. And they help guide our long-term planning and philosophy for the Intercollegiate Squash Association. It's the first time we've ever had that in place. It's the first time we've ever had a full-time employee. So we're, as you can tell, over the last 2.5 years, we've made a lot of pretty big, wide-sweeping changes for the structure of the CSA. And we're really excited about the way things are moving forward. We do rely really heavily on the NCAA rules. They have a rule book for each division, actually. They have 3 divisions. Each one has a rule book that's several hundred pages long, and they've tried and true and well tested, so we rely on those rules a lot. But there are some areas where, because squash is not an NCAA sport, it does not show up in the NCAA rule book. And so we've started in our first year, my first year, started to develop some squash-specific rules that are really critical for our growth and development. So we're talking about an age limit rule, we're talking about some limits on outside competition, and most importantly for today, we established a recruiting timeline for coaches and potential recruits to follow that's clear and consistent across the board for all of our teams, regardless of whether they're Division I, Division III, Ivy League, NESCAC, and so on. We did that just this past summer. So I talked a little bit before, and this is hopefully more for the international crowd, but the NCAA is this national governing body. It's the National Collegiate Athletics Association. They have 3 divisions, 1, 2, and 3, and they sponsor a wide variety of sports. Okay? As you can see, CSA in college squash is not one of them. All right? We're going to leave Division II up at the top because none of the teams in the CSA are NCAA Division II teams. We're made up solely of NCAA Division I and Division III teams. So you can see here, here are the list of our member schools that sponsor varsity college squash. All right? So we have 8 Ivy League institutions, and these 6 institutions, this grouping are all, their athletic departments are all NCAA Division I schools. Okay? This grouping, these 6 over here, and the Liberty League and the NESCAC are all Division III schools. Okay? They're all, within the College Squash Association, they're all on even footing. Okay? We expect them all to follow the same, more or less the same rules. But their affiliations, their athletic department affiliations are different when it comes to the NCAA. And so we do ask them to rely upon those rule books for the most part. But what they all have in common is that they're all members of the CSA. And we ask them to follow rules, specifically the ones that we're starting to implement. These conferences are listed in particular, the Ivy League, the Liberty League, the NESCAC, because they have conference championships or conference winners and a conference schedule. We've also just recently approved the Mid-Atlantic Squash Conference, which is the first squash-only conference of its kind. And the member schools here that with a star by their name are the ones that are in the Mid-Atlantic Squash Conference. So they're all ones who have postseason competition generally in early to mid-February during the season. So we have, that dotted line appeared, we have a relationship with the NCAA. We rely very heavily on that. We rely very heavily on the officers in the school athletic departments who are familiar with the NCAA and the rules and regulations. But we are a separate entity, and we're the ones who sponsor squash. As far as the CSA is concerned, we have several sort of near-term goals. We have a lot of work to do. The first one is that eligibility, amateurism, and recruiting regulations that I talked about. We've built up a small document now, and we're looking to add to it as things come up. We always want to reinforce our core values of sporting behavior and fair play. We're trying to enhance our championships model, make the presentation better for players and fans. Excuse me. We are trying to generate additional revenue. We are just embarking on a 4-year founders fundraising campaign. As you can see, we're looking to expand our operations. We've brought on some staff, and we need a lot of help in order to maintain the level that we're looking to accomplish. So as we do that, you'll probably hear more from the CSA and our board of directors about that campaign. If you're interested in participating and have the capacity and means, we'd really like to talk to you. So just a little pitch there. We do want to improve our communication on all of our channels. and expand these playing opportunities. You saw we have 35 men's teams, 32 women's teams. We're looking to grow those. So we're looking to add more varsity teams so that we make ourselves a more robust organization. So here I'm going to drill down a little bit into the college recruiting process. I know this is the main reason why a lot of you are here. Very important first question to start with, okay? This is a pop quiz for you all, so I hope you're ready. Hope you've had your lunch and you're feeling energized. Okay, who can communicate about and confirm admissions status on campus? Yes?
The admissions office.
Okay, first guess is the admissions office. That's a very good one. And do we have any other guesses? Don't be shy. Come on, there's got to be someone else, right?
Coaches.
Okay, we have a guess of coaches. So those are the two that we generally get. Thanks for playing along. I appreciate you guessing. Unfortunately, that's incorrect. Okay? Our first guess was correct. The Office of Admissions is the only entity on campus that can communicate with your players or the players and confirm their admission status. No coaches can do that formally. Okay? The coaches will communicate with you throughout the recruiting process. There's no question about that. But they cannot guarantee with 100% certainty that you will get admitted to a college. Only the Office of Admissions can do that. If you take nothing else away from this presentation today, not a single thing, please take this away. Okay? Because as you go through this process, it's incredibly important to know the Office of Admissions is the only entity on campus that can communicate admission status. Can we get behind that? You got it? Okay. Other important facts to consider, especially as you're embarking on the process early on. Each college and university and their admissions process is different. Okay? They approach their process differently, and because of that, the coaches who are employed by those schools also approach those processes differently. So it's incredibly important as you're, no matter where you are in this process, you need to understand the process that you're getting into for the schools that you're interested in. It's not a one-size-fits-all model. It's not the same, even amongst conferences, even amongst the Ivy League, even amongst the NESCAC. Those processes are going to be different for each school. So once you start to narrow down your list of schools that you're interested in, make sure you understand what the requirements are going to be, what the deadlines are going to be, because it's going to be different for every school. One thing I will say, I'm a huge cheerleader for our organization, because our list of schools that sponsor varsity college squash is one of the most impressive lists of schools that I can think of. Top to bottom, we offer great experiences, a wide variety of experiences that is really, really unparalleled as far as college sports organizations are concerned. So no matter where you're looking, no matter what you're looking to go, no matter where you get in ultimately and you want to play, you're going to have a great experience because the list of our schools is just phenomenal. And so keep that in mind as you're starting to embark. It's not just about the name brand or what you see out there. Every school is going to offer a great experience for you. So I'm going to work this timeline through kind of year by year. We start with the first year of high school. In the United States, it's generally called freshman year or your first year. These are about 14, 15-year-olds, okay, for our international crowd. When you're that young, the key thing to focus on is your academics. Start out by getting the best grades you can get. Take the hardest classes you feel like you can handle. All right? Think about what your academics interests are, what you might want to study long term, and start focusing your energies towards that. It's a long process, but you have to start now. This builds up your academic profile that colleges are going to look at, and first and foremost, they're going to want to see that you're excelling academically. You also need to be a good citizen, and by this is a wide sweeping thing. It's very simple, but it covers a lot of different bases. So, in person, when you're on the squash court, when you're off the squash court, when you're in class, when you're on your phone, when you're on social media, when you're on the internet, anywhere you go, be a good citizen. All it takes is one misstep, and you could be out of luck. Okay? Everyone makes mistakes. There's no question about that. But staying on the straight and narrow from the get-go is the best policy. And if you do step off the path, be honest about your mistakes and own up to them. Work on your communication skills. Normally, I ask people in this session to stand up and introduce themselves. We have so many people here today. don't have time for that, but I would, I'm eager to meet people as I'm here at competitions like this or on the road at matches, so please feel free. Coaches are going to want to hear from the players. Who said parents? That's them. Coaches are going to hear from the players. How they communicate. Are they able to talk about their goals, their dreams, their interests, their play? If they can't talk about squash, what can they talk about? Right? These are their interests. Make sure you're working on communication skills from the get-go. And, oh, by the way, hone your squash skills. You got to keep that. Obviously, if you're going to try and play squash in college, you need to be able to play squash. Keep working on those skills during your freshman year. So second year, right, we're moving up to the 15, 16-year range. Sophomore year, you have to maintain everything you did beforehand. Freshman year, academics, be a good citizen, get those grades up, work on the squash skills. Now's the time where you can start to get your brand, your outside persona put together. Update your US squash profile. Add information where people can contact you. Add your graduation year. Make sure the coaches who you want to attract know how to get in touch with you and what year you'll be graduating. Your Club Locker profile has this capability. And you can go on right now. I know you all have one because you're all in the tournament this weekend. You can go on and you can make that information public so coaches can find you. Start to research the schools. Start to narrow down the list of schools that you're looking at. The longer you have a nice, robust list of 20 schools, the harder it's going to be. It can be very overwhelming. Try to start understanding what your interests are. You can start to research and attend squash camps over the summer or showcases over weekends. Right? This is the best opportunity for coaches, not just to see how you play on the court, but how you act as a human being, how you act as a person, how you interact with other people, how you behave off court. Coaches are making a huge commitment to you when they're asking you to come to their campus for 4 years, and they want to know that they're getting the right type of person for their program. So if you can get to camps, it's not a mandatory thing. Some coaches may lead you to believe that it's mandatory, that they won't recruit you if they can't see you. That's not true. I'm here to tell you that's not true. But it certainly helps them because it helps give them a better idea of what type of person you are and how you act. Okay? So start to look into those sophomore year if you can and you want to and you have the means. And then if you're ready, I won't be caught forcing you to do this your sophomore year. I certainly didn't. But if you're ready to take a standardized test and you want to get a flavor for it, you can certainly start to do that sophomore year as well. Moving into junior year, or your third year, right? So 15 or 16-year-old, maybe 17-year-old, depending on where you're from. This is a critical year. Because you need to continue all those efforts that you've done for 2 years now. Academics, good citizen, good squash. But now you can start communicating with coaches. And they can start communicating with you. One of the initiatives that we implemented just this past summer at the CSA is a hard and fast, clear, consistent deadline or first opportunity for recruiting contact with all CSA coaches. And that's September 1st of your junior year of high school, your third year of high school. Okay? That is the first opportunity that coaches can contact you and you can have direct contact with them. So if you are at this event right now and you are not a junior and a senior, you can wave to the coach. You can say hi. You can be very nice and cordial and friendly, and you can act the right way, but you should not expect them to talk to them, and they should not expect to talk to you. Okay? This is so you can focus on all this other things we're asking you to do. The squash, the being a good citizen, the treating your parents the right way. Okay? Focus on that stuff, because you don't need to worry about college yet. This is to curb and really reduce early recruiting. It starts September 1st of your junior year of high school. Contact is in person, it's over email, it's over text, it's phone calls. All of those fit the definition. That includes at camp. So if you go to camp as a sophomore, don't expect to have a recruiting conversation with the coach. You're just there to work on your squash and have a great experience. Once you're a junior or a senior and you're going to those camps, they might have a session that's specifically designed to talk about college recruiting. That's when that's allowed to happen. Interactions at competitions. This is really critical because we're all here today and you're living it right now. There are college coaches up there right now. I just went and said hi to about 6 of them. Okay? they're there to observe. If you're a junior or senior, they may be able to talk to you at the end of the day once you're done playing for the day. Okay? Parents, there's a little more flexibility there. You can have some interactions, but the kids, just go play your squash. Focus on what you're here to do. Put forth the best experience. Don't worry about the college coaches. The main thing you should worry about with them is acting the right way. Okay? Treating your parents and your coaches the right way. Treating your opponents the right way, the referees the right way. That's what you should focus on. Same with your club team coaches or your personal coach, your high school coach. If they're here and you're younger than a junior, they shouldn't be communicating about you as a player. That's not what you're here to worry about. And in junior year, you can start talking about what's called an unofficial visit. An unofficial visit is a self-directed, self-funded visit that you make to a campus that you're interested in seeing. So sophomore year or junior year, you can go to a campus as many times as you want. And you can go take a tour. In fact, we recommend you go take a tour, you go take an information session, you go sit in a dining hall and have a meal, you talk to some other people, get a sense or feel of the campus culture and the campus community. You can do that as many times as you want. And then also, after September 1st of your junior year, you can reach out to the coaches and say, hey, I'm going to be on campus. Can we meet? Can we stop by? Can we see the squash courts? And they may be able to set that up, depending on their availability. Top here, this is how critical the third year is. There's a second slide. Okay, there's that much stuff to focus on. We've talked, I've interacted with a parent who's been through this process, and he recommends putting together what's called a squash resume, and I wholeheartedly agree. If you can put together, the Club Locker account says one thing. It says it has your results. You can say what graduation year you are, but if you're able to communicate your story to coaches, now that you can talk to them and you can put your story on paper in a succinct and clear fashion, coaches are going to eat that up, right? They will digest that. If you have your name, your contact information, your parents' contact information, your coach's contact information, your grades, your standardized test scores, your squash accolades, and any stories you want to tell about matches you won, injuries you've had, why you started late, any of these things. Anything that you can tell your story in a short, concise fashion, you can send that out to email is a wonderful thing, right? You can send that out to every college coach if you wanted to, all in one blast. And the easier it is for them to read and digest the information, the easier it is for them to follow up. So think about that. Continue to narrow down your preferred list of schools. Again, the longer you have a wide net, the harder it is going to be. It becomes overwhelming. You can reach out to coaches. You should follow up with coaches. Players. Parents you can follow up too, but coaches are less likely to respond to you. I'll tell you that. If you have questions about financial aid or housing, those things come later. Right? Once you get farther down the path. Don't worry about that stuff right now. Let your student, let your player do the talking. You can talk to coaches about visiting campus. Again, those official visits can start September 1st of your junior year. Official visits can start January 1st of your junior year. Official visits are visits that are funded either all or in part by the institution that's inviting you to come. Okay? So they'll cover expenses up to a certain point. They should be clear about what those are. And each player is only allowed to take 5 official visits. There is a limit. Okay? So keep that in mind as those are coming in, if they're being offered. And make the best of it. It's 48 hours on campus when you get to immerse yourself in the campus community and campus culture and really get a sense of whether or not you want to spend time on that campus. And your experiences there are going to be critical for your decision making, and the experience interacting with the team and the coaches is going to be critical for their decision making. So if you can take advantage of those opportunities, even if it's not an official visit, getting on campus for unofficial visits and meeting the coach and meeting the players is really, really important. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. And of course, academics, be a good citizen. Get your standardized scores up as best as possible. That is a theme throughout. I will hammer that home forevermore. Academics and being a good citizen is so, so important. So I'm going to take a pause here with the junior year because this is when certain things start to fall into place. Parts of the process start to fall into place. And there are some terms that come out and that are thrown around that some of you may have heard about, your peers at your club or your institution or just in playing tournaments like this have talked about. The first one is a verbal offer or a commitment. Show of hands, who's heard these terms thrown around? Okay, a couple. This is when a coach or a player, recruiting is a two-way street, commits to either applying to an institution or supporting your application for admissions to that institution. Okay? So if you're going along in your junior year or early in your senior year, and a coach says to you, yes, I'm committed to you, I want you to come to my institution, that is not a guarantee of admission. Because, as we talked about before, only the Office of Admissions can guarantee that. The coach, when they're saying they are verbally committed to you, or they are giving you a verbal offer, they are saying, I will support your application for admissions as much as I can. And that differs because, again, the process is different from school to school. That differs, but they are doing their best to offer the support that they can offer. And that's all they can do. They can't guarantee you admission at that point. They can just say, I'm committing to you, I want you to come to my school, I hope you commit to me. Okay? There's something called a pre-read, an academic pre-read or a financial aid pre-read. Okay? This is when you get your academic credentials, you put it in a nice package, the schools or the coaches will tell you what they need, and you'll put it together and they will submit it to their Office of Admissions, who will evaluate your academic credentials. Okay? This generally happens after at least 5 terms in high school. So at least after midway through your junior year or your 3rd year of high school. Okay? Some wait all the way until after your junior year is done. So July 1st. I know the NESCAC deadline is July 1st, after your junior year. Okay? So admissions offices, to do a legitimate read of your credentials, need a core set of your grades to assess whether you're going to be a good fit in the school, and they'll do that. Coaches will ask for that information. You'll give it to them. They'll submit it, and then from the Office of Admissions, they'll give you a pre-read. Now, that gets you farther along the process, but again, a favorable pre-read is not a guarantee of admission. You still need to be a good citizen. You still need to do a number of other things that we'll talk about. Okay, but it's a good sign. You're moving in the right direction. The coach will continue to recruit you at that point, or can at least. And finally, we have this thing called a likely letter, and this gets a lot of attention, but it's not really widespread. The likely letter is only an Ivy League mechanism. It's only an Ivy League thing. Okay. Ivy League schools offer to do this only starting October 1st of your senior year. So some coaches might say, I'll get you a likely letter, don't worry, I'll get you, or we'll send you one. And they may say that as early as January of your junior year. They may say it pretty early on. And that's fine. They can say that and they will apply for that, but that is not going to come until October 1st of your senior year. Okay, so that's a long time. So there's a lot of conversations that go on up until that point. In order to get a likely letter, your application to that school, a single school, must be totally complete. You must be done with all your essays, all your application materials. Everything has to be in. And only then will the Office of Admissions send you a likely letter. Okay? So this, anyone who says, I'll get you a likely letter, there's a lot of steps that go along with that until you get to that point. All right? And still then, a likely letter gives you great peace of mind. It's really exciting and humbling to earn one of those. But even then, it's not a guaranteed offer of admission because you still need to act the right way and do the right stuff and keep your grades up. Okay? So put another way, I just want to show this on a continuum. All right? This is a process, and it's a fluid one. It's a two-way street. The players and the coaches are constantly communicating back and forth. So it goes a long way, and there's a lot of you, right? There are a lot of you who are applying for these positions and wanting to join teams. And so you're jostling where you want to go, the coaches are jostling. in their minds who they want to offer commitments to. So it's a fluid process. It's on a continuum. It starts with that first opportunity for recruitment. September 1st of your junior year, September 1st of your third year of high school, when you're 16 or 17. Okay? It starts there, right at the beginning. And it goes to the end, the offer of admission, which is here. So to start with, getting a verbal offer is great, and it could be an important part of the process. It's not something that all coaches do. Again, the process is different for everybody. So this is just one example, but it only gets you so far. Remember, this is a continuum. It's a fluid process. Some people, they're rare, but some people could get a verbal offer September 1st of their junior year. You're a top-ranked player, you have phenomenal academics, you're a phenomenal citizen, you fit all the categories that any college would want. A school might give you a verbal offer on day one. But remember, that's not an offer of admission, and you still have to get all the way through the application process a year plus later. So that's why it gets you part of the way. A verbal offer could come at any point between September 1st of your junior year and all the way through the admissions process. So it only gets you part way. That academic pre-read is also great. It's a great tool for admissions offices. It gets you on their radar. It tells the coaches they can continue to recruit. And for you, it gives you peace of mind that you're on the right track, that you're feeling good, you're taking the right classes, and you're doing well and you're on your way. But it's only part of the way there. Okay? Again, this can happen the summer after your junior year. You still have a long way to go. You still have the application to fill out. You still have to act like a good person. That likely letter, if you're applying to Ivy League schools, that gets you really far along the way. Almost there. Okay? After, most early decision deadlines are November 15th. So you could get a letter between October 1st and November 15th that says that you're likely to get in, but it says you're likely to get in if you uphold certain obligations. If you don't uphold those obligations, they will take that offer of admission back. That's why a likely letter does not get you the whole way there. It gets you most of the way, along with these other steps. But a likely letter at an Ivy League school does not get you the whole way. And here's why. The likely letter itself, and I've seen them, I worked at an Ivy League school, it says that you must uphold all these obligations in order to maintain your status, in order to maintain that offer of admission. You must get the best grades possible. You must maintain the grades that you were getting prior to the admissions process. So if you were a straight A student all the way through junior year, and then senior year, first term, you get a C, that's a major red flag. Because they're going to wonder what happened and why your grades dropped all of a sudden, even if it's just one class. So you need to get the best grades you can get. You need to get the best test scores you can get. You need to take the most rigorous classes. Rigor is a super buzzword in college admissions right now. They want to see that you're challenging yourself, that you're taking the toughest classes that you can take, the toughest classes that you can handle. Because they're going to expect you to do college level work when you get to college, and they want to know that you can handle it. You must take the application, the essay seriously. This is another big part for a lot of our member institutions. They care greatly that you want to come to their school. Not that you're just copy and pasting the same essay to every single school. They want to know that you want to come. Because if you don't want to come, if you don't express that you want to come specifically to that school, then they may not be interested in having you there. Act appropriately. Again, I can't overstate this enough. Be a good citizen. Even if you think something is private, the internet catches everything. Make sure you are acting the right way at all times. And that goes, we have, like I said before, and you'll know it, you'll see all of them here with all their gear on. The college coaches are here. And yes, they're here to watch you play squash. But they are also here to watch how you act off the squash court. How do you act when the match is done and you lost? Did you throw your racket? Did you talk to your parents? Did you talk to the referee? Did you shake hands? Did you shake hands with the opponent? Did you butt in line to get lunch for food? Or did you let somebody go? They see all this stuff. These guys have trained, men and women have trained eyes. They see it all. Okay? The squash is only a very small part. We'll talk a little bit more about that. So you need to act appropriately all the time, all the way through. If you are going all the way through the process, and your academic profile fits and your squash profile fits and everything's looking great, and you get ready to press that submit button on your application, and you're like, let me just call coach one more time, and you say, coach, yeah, I'm ready to go. I just want to let you know, I had this little incident and I got arrested last week. That might, or I got arrested 2 years ago. That might have been an important piece of information to let them know ahead of time. And guess what? That's probably going to disqualify you from being admitted. So being upfront about it, admitting your mistakes, and or just acting appropriately ahead of time so you don't get arrested in the first place, that's really the way to go. And then of course, after all this, you're trying to play varsity squash. We want you to play good squash. That's part of it too. But you see, there's all these other things that are important as well. So moving into the fourth year, senior year, if you're undecided or you're planning to apply in regular decision, which comes later in the process in January, you can coordinate any final visits you want to make. You can ask about that pre-read with the academics or the financial aid parents if you're interested. You can decide where and when you're going to apply. So generally speaking, for those who don't know, there's 2 application deadlines. There's normally an early decision deadline, which comes around mid-November, early November, month of November, and then there's a regular decision deadline, which is around January 1st. Early decision, more often than not, is binding, so you would only apply to one school. Regular decision is not binding, so you can apply to as many schools as you like. Some schools have something called early action, which is an earlier deadline but non-binding, but again, I encourage you to research the schools that you're interested in to know what your options are. Make sure, as you narrow down your schools, or you're talking to 1 or 2 coaches, make sure they have everything that they need. Make sure that your application has everything that it's asking for. The essay, the transcripts, the standardized test scores. Sometimes you have to send those to the right place. Pay attention to that stuff. And uphold your obligations. Never forget. Going back a slide. These are critically important. All the way to the point where you actually step on college campus. You could do something senior year, senior prank, and get yourself in trouble, and colleges may rescind your offer of admission at that point too. So act appropriately all the way through. So that's really the timeline. I know I threw a lot of information out there. Happy to answer questions at the end. We're going to talk about one more thing. But it's a fluid process, and it really starts. You can focus on your academics and your squash in your first years, and then starting your junior year is when it really picks up the pace. Okay. We're going to talk a little bit about what college coaches are looking for. Admittedly, I'm not a college coach. Okay, I'm an administrator. I work with and talk with the college coaches every day of my life. We talk about this topic a lot. So these are my thoughts that I've put together. Some coaches may agree, others may disagree, and they'll have other thoughts, and they will often communicate with you what they're looking for as part of the recruiting process. Okay. Before I get into college squash coaches and what they've told me, I came across this. I'm a sports fan in general. I love all college sports. At Columbia, I was the obscure sports guy. I oversaw the archery team and the fencing team and the wrestling team. And so I followed some college wrestling. This guy, his name is Tom Ryan. He is the Ohio State University head wrestling coach, and he's a legend in college wrestling and really college coaching circles in general. He's a national champion. 2015, Ohio State won the national championship. He's finished second 5 times in the last 12 years. So he's finished first or second 6 times in last half of the years. He's a champion wrestler himself, coach of the year. He's been doing it forever, and he knows how to recruit and identify talent. Okay, and amazingly enough, as if he knew I was giving this presentation today, a week ago he tweeted the top 12 tips of what he's looking for in a recruit. Now here it is. December 6th, so a week ago, just prior to this talk. Here they are. Top 12. Humility, gratitude, high character, trust, incredible work ethic, coachable, growth mindset, we versus me oriented, drug-free, impulse control, self-reliant, and oh, by the way, talented. Number 12. This is a guy who recruits the best wrestlers in the world, some of the best athletes in college sports, hands down. And this is his list from literally a week ago. And talented was 12. Humility and honesty are so, so important, okay? So, take it from him. He's an expert. I just talk to these guys every day. Here's my list. First and foremost, we're a squash community, and the colleges that you're applying to are going to expect a high-level academic credentials. So, make sure your basic credentials are the best they can be. Toughest classes, grades, test scores. Of course, they're going to want to know where and when you've played. They want evidence of that. More so today, in today's admissions climate than ever before. And with Club Locker, it really helps. But they want to know where and when you've played. Okay? Rankings and ratings, however, are not the be-all and end-all to the recruitment process, as you can see. All right? Yes, they want to know that you've played or that you've reached a certain level or that you're within a certain band. But if you haven't played certain tournaments, they want to know that too. They want to know your story. Okay? It's not all about rankings and ratings. Here we go again. Appropriate behavior on and off the court. Be a good citizen. Social media, internet stuff cannot be more important. What was your experience like during the visit? Both for you, the recruits, and the coaches and the teams that you're going to be joining. Was there a good fit? Was there a good fit on campus, in the culture and community that's on campus, outside of athletics? Was there a good fit on the team? Was there a good fit interacting with the coach? Were you able to use those communication skills to communicate appropriately and make sure that they understand what you're looking to do, what you're looking to accomplish, and what sort of teammate you want to be? There it is. Communication skills are key. So if you see college coaches and you can talk to them down the road, or when at the end of the day, if you're able to talk to them, parents, I hate to say it, coaches don't want to hear from you. They want to hear from your players. You can help your kids by teaching them to act appropriately, reminding them about that part of it. But when it comes to talking to the coaches, leave it up to your players. The coaches want to see that you're enthusiastic about squash. Okay? That you're playing in not just every tournament, but tournaments that you want to play in. Okay? You're playing all the way through the draws. You're not disappearing. You're not coming up with freak injuries in the back draws every single tournament that you play in. They want to see that you're playing all the way through, and you're enthusiastic about being there and being part of the competition. This word grit is a really big buzzword in college sports right now. Who's heard grit? Who's heard talk about grit before? Right? Grit is like resilience, or your desire to power through struggle, or overcome adversity. Right? That is certainly critical. Coaches look for that in the way that you play, right? The way that you handle yourself, how you come back from adversity, how you play in those back draws. They want to see that resilience. They want to see that you're learning. If they see you at the USJO and then they see you in a JCT down the road, how have you changed? Have you learned? Do you listen to your coaches? And so on. They want to see all that. But don't underestimate the power of well-roundedness as well. So if you're at the point now where you're trying to decide, should I play squash or should I play another sport? Or should I play squash and should I do dance or art or music? It's okay to do both. In fact, a lot of coaches have told me that they appreciate players who are well-rounded because it teaches you lessons that you don't learn on the squash court, especially playing in individual competitions like this. They want you to bring those lessons to the team because you're joining a team. Sure, you'll be playing matches on your own, but you'll be part of a team and they want you to fit in. How do you deal with adversity as a team? How do you deal with team dynamics? These sorts of things you learn often outside of individual competitions on the squash court. And so if you have those experiences, if you're a great dancer or a musician or artist, or you play another team sport, soccer, basketball, what have you, tell coaches about that. They love to hear that stuff. And it actually makes you a pretty attractive candidate. So just because grit and resilience and determination on your own part is really important, don't forget those well-rounded experiences as well. Okay? So that's my list. I think a lot of coaches would agree, but some have more priorities than others. So feel free to talk to them about it when you have the opportunity. So that's it for me. I'm going to open the floor for questions. I think we have some people chiming in as well from the stream. So let's start right here.
So I don't know if this is just an NCAA term, but the academic index, that term is something I've heard before.
Right.
And I was wondering how it works. Is it just that every team has to have its own sort of like average set of, or do some sort of subsidize others in the athletic program overall?
Good question. So the question was about the term, the academic index. As far as I know, the academic index is only, like the likely letter, is only an Ivy League term, not NCAA-wide or even CSA-wide. It's a tool, an algorithm and a tool that Ivy League admissions offices use to try and understand and quantify a player's or a student's academic credentials. But
does the team have to have like a certain level, or does the whole athletic
that is done on a school by school and case by case basis. Based on what I know, it's different for every school, and so. But it's also, I think, somewhat proprietary information, so they're not necessarily going to reveal how that all works. But it's just much like Club Locker and your results. It's just one tool as part of the process. So just because you reach a certain level in the academic index doesn't mean you're an absolute guaranteed shoe-in for admission. If you're behaving badly and you have a high academic index, it's not going to match up. So it's on a school by school basis. But as far as I understand, the academic index is only an Ivy League. Yes.
Curious about the pre-read, or academic pre-read. Can you give a couple of scenarios? So a student wants to request a pre-read because, let's say, they're strong as a squash player and they're also a strong academic student. Is it a scenario where they would ask for that because they want the coach to know, or like what would be the situation where you would ask them? What would be the right way to go about that?
Sure. Great question. So the question is about the academic pre-read, and could we go through a few scenarios of how that might work? So again, every school is different, so the timeline around when that can happen is different for each school. For the most part, the first opportunity for a school to give a formal academic pre-read is July 1st after your junior year. So if you're in your junior year and you're having conversations regularly with a coach or coaches, your player should bring that up as part of the conversation. Hey, I have my grades and my transcripts. I've heard about an academic pre-read. Is that something that you do? And what's your timeline like? Right? And put it up, and some coaches predominantly are upfront about it because they have an interest in finding out where your player fits in to their school and those credentials at the same time. So they will likely say, oh yeah, we can do a pre-read, but I can't do it until after July 1st. Send me document X, document Y, and document Z, and I'll pass it along and we'll get something back. And then they'll submit that through generally a standardized form of some sort to either an admissions liaison or the admissions office itself. And the admissions office will come back and say, yes, please proceed with your recruitment of this player. In which case they'll respond right away and say, yep, great, things are looking good. We can continue to have these conversations. Or the admissions office might say, looks pretty good or looks okay, but I would really like to see them take more difficult classes their senior year. Or I would really they better get all A's in this first semester or it's not going to work. Or they need to get their scores up 100 points or something like that in order for us to consider it. And so that's kind of like a gray, like a yellow light cautionary sort of thing. Or they might say, yeah, look, I'm sorry, they have 2 C's on their transcript and we can't accept that. You should cease recruitment at this point. And then the coach should get back to you and say, look, I'm really sorry, we were really interested, you're a great kid, we thought it was going to work, but the admissions office said no. And then they should be upfront about that. The honesty piece is really critical. I know you didn't ask about this, but as we have get more of this information out about the process, and we share some of the terminology with you, we want you to ask these sorts of questions to the coaches and have that dialogue So both parties can be upfront about how the process is progressing, okay? Because it is a fluid process. There is some caginess to it. Some college coaches do talk to each other. They do coordinate to a certain degree, but then they're in competition with each other. They want to get the best kids in that they can get and the best fit for their schools. And so they're constantly trying to work on that. And being upfront with them and them being upfront with you is something that we talk about all the time, executive director to coaches, is how important it is to be honest with the recruits about where they stand and how that process is going. And the more information that can be shared between those two groups, the more peace of mind that you have as you go through the process. Yes?
Do college admissions look at grades across different high schools in a similar way relative to the regular classes taken?
Yep. So the question is, do college admissions offices look at grades across different schools for one student or multiple students?
Just as part of your record, do they differentiate across schools? Because different schools have different academic rigor and
Right.
classes within the schools have different
Yes,
academic
they
rigor.
do. So often as part of either the pre-read process or the application process, offices of admission will ask for what's called an academic profile of a school. And most high schools have that available to send to college admissions offices. Most of the time they have them already. They have a whole index of academic profiles. And so they will, along with the grades and the rank, the class rank that your son or daughter might have, they will look at the academic profile of the school and know what, kind of what that means. Yes?
Could you share some numbers? How many kids are typically recruited each year? Where do higher rate kids go typically? Just some distribution.
Sure. So the question was asking for some numbers about kids recruited per year and things like that. I don't have hard and fast numbers because it changes from year to year, but generally speaking, the average sort of like incoming class of players is about 3 per team. In some cases it may be more, in some cases it may be less. Right? So if we have 65 varsity teams, multiply that times 3 players, and you kind of have your number of these spots available per year. Now it's not it's not a hard and fast thing. Some schools have designated numbers that they can bring in, and others just kind of encourage a lot of people to apply and give their best recommendation to the admissions office, and the admissions office will accept those who they feel are a good fit for the class. So the admissions office, the coach may have no control over the number that are getting in, and in some cases it could be 1, in some cases it could be 5. You don't know all the time. So year over year, there's take one side. There's 35 men's varsity programs. Multiply that times 3. There's roughly 100 spots a year of players coming into the college squash. Now, as we hope to grow and expand, we hope that as numbers increase, and we know that junior squash is growing at a very high rate, and so we're hoping to provide ample opportunities around that. Yes.
So one thing I'm confused about is that they make a verbal offer.
Yeah.
Like let's say like 3 or 4 places make a verbal offer. And so are you supposed to accept it? Is it a binding kind of thing, or how does it work after that? Because it's pretty floating because you're not guaranteed an admission with a verbal offer for about a year.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, you may have to pick. You have to pick one person, or you just leave it there.
It's a great question. So the question was, what's the deal with verbal offers, basically, right? Is it binding or anything? It's not binding either way, okay? But this is where the recruit and the coach's honesty and integrity comes into play, okay? Because if a coach is verbally offering a commitment to support a player's application for admission in, say, February of their junior year, the player is going to take that pretty closely to heart, right? But that still means they have to work all the way through. And if the player feels like that is solid and gold, then they can take that with them and just say, yeah, let's keep communicating. I'm going to tell you how I'm doing in my classes and on my scores, and I'm going to apply to your school and only your school for early decision, and let's do it. And just the same way, a player may say to a coach, I'm committed to you. I know you may not have a spot for me, but I'm telling you that you are my first choice, and I want to come to this school, and as soon as the spot opens up and it's available to me, I want to take it. And they may stop with the process and not do anything else. But that's why the sharing of information, the honesty and the integrity goes a long way throughout this process. And the steps, the verbal offer, the academic pre-read, and the likely letter in some cases are really, really important. If a coach says on February of your junior year, yeah, I'm committed to you, and I want you to come to my school, and then 4 months down the road, you say, okay, I know you're committed to me. Can we do a pre-read? Can we do an academic pre-read? And there's silence, or there's no, we're not going to do that. That might be a red flag that you might want to push a little more. You might want to ask a few more questions. You might want to open up some dialogue with some other places, right? So it is kind of a touchy terrain. This is why it's a fluid process, because you remember the coaches are looking at a lot of players at the same time as well. So generally speaking, a coach will not say, I'm committed to you, I'm verbally offering you a spot or whatever they're going to say, right? Unless they're 100% in.
Right, I think my question was for twofold. So once, let's say this offer me is pretty solid, then it's verbal. So what's the timeline? And everyone makes verbal offer at different times.
Yeah.
So you may have heard from one, but you may not have heard from 4 others, or
Yeah.
3 others, or whatever the numbers are.
Yeah, so the question is about verbal offers and timelines, and there's nothing set. There's no timeline to prescribe other than the deadlines that the coach will communicate. So yeah, we can do a pre-read starting July 1st of the summer, or the application opens up here. Get your application materials in, and we'll keep talking. But if you're going to be if a coach offers that they're committed to you, but it's not your first choice, then you can say, thank you very much. I'm very flattered. I'm very excited to have this offer, but I'm still in conversations with some other coaches, and I'm going to continue having those conversations. That piece of honesty and integrity is really critical to the process, both directions.
That's another question.
Yes?
So just in your example on the numbers that you'd asked earlier, so let's just say the men's pool is roughly 100 spots. Is it all through the recruiting process that they go through? And second is there a distinction between U.S. players and international players?
So the question is about the numbers again, right? And how I'm not understanding your first part.
The first one, so the 100 spots are all through the recruiting process, or they also include the walk-ons?
Well, it's hard to put this blanket case over all schools, because some of our varsity programs are different than others when they talk about the admissions process. And so teams will have players on their roster that they can support and provide for, right? So they're not gonna, most squash teams, I don't know of any squash team that has 30 players on it, because it's just not a sustainable model. So the coaches know how to kind of manage their spots, and that's why it's not a hard and fast 100. Sometimes it could be a small year. There may not be as many people graduating, so the rosters or the recruiting numbers need to be smaller. Remind me of your second
The
question.
second one is a distinction, a different process between U.S. and international.
Generally not.
So
Anyone who's going to be, because remember, it's the process for admissions is driven by the school, not the athletics department or the squash team. So in order to get into that school and be accepted, you're going to have to fill out the application and do the essay and make sure all the materials, you provide all the materials that they're asking for, no matter where you're coming from. Where there might be differences is in their financial aid policies or internal policies that we're not privy to. Yes?
Players in international
So the question is about the differences between academic styles in different countries and how they're evaluated or how they're compared. That again is up to the Office of Admissions. They actually, most offices have experts in particular areas. So they'll either know where your child has gone to school and the academic, they'll ask for the academic profile from the school that they're applying from. Most applications require a letter of recommendation or some letter from a guidance counselor or a headmaster or someone like that. So they will do some research to understand better the academic profile of the school if they're not already familiar with it. They'll contact experts, either language experts or school experts in that country or in that region to better understand what it looks like. They'll do, the admissions office will do their due diligence to understand better what the application is really saying. So it's up to them, it's completely out of their hands, other than the coaches passing along the information and pressing the Office of Admissions to understand better what they're reading. It's totally out of the hands of the coaches. It's all up to the admissions offices. Yes?
About the squash resume, so when you write it, is it like a list of like achievements, like academic?
For the resume?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really however you want to express your story, right? So, but it should be simple and clear and succinct. Something that if you were to send it out to, say, 15 or 20 coaches, they could look at an email really briefly and say, oh, hey, that's somebody that I'm interested in talking to. I'll put him on my list to contact later, or I'll respond to this email. Okay? So am I advocating for a 5-paragraph essay on? Probably not. Our coaches are most coaches in all sport are not going to spend a lot of time doing that, but stats, bulleted key pieces of information, something that is clear and easily digestible is a positive. Okay. That question was about the squash resume. Okay, well, seeing no other questions from the group, thank you all so much for joining us today and sitting in on our session. This was streamed and recorded, so if you want to go back and look at anything later, feel free to do that. If you think of questions down the road, you can email admin@csasquash.com and that'll come to me. You can access our website, csasquash.com. There's some more information there, and you can find my contact information there as well. So thank you so much. Really appreciate you all being here, and good luck this weekend.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thanks for coming. You got it. Thanks for being guys.
I just started my process to see if you're making them late in this process. You have the CTs with the TOEFL. So I was planning with my clients to do 6 months of only training, only preparation to have a good level start and do SATs for the year. Do you think that's a good idea, or should I apply right now?
No, I think that's probably, considering where you are with the testing process, it's probably not a bad idea to give your time to take the test when it's comfortable. If you take too long, then